It's Thursday, November 6, 2025, and I want to talk about Pokrovsk, and I think I understand the strategy moving forward. I'm going to show you what's going on. I'm going to show you what's happening. I'm going to read a little bit from the BBC about here's why this is important, how this happened, how they're pulling out. We'll go through all of that here. My name is Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I do these every day. Please consider subscribing if you've not already. Okay, here's Pokrovsk on a deep state map. This is the most recent map that we have. If you go back just 1 month, look what the Russians now control that they didn't control just 1 month ago. Look at that. That's pretty amazing. So the Russians are in the city of Pokrovsk. If it's red, Russians control it. If it's this darker shade, but it's not red, it's dark, just kind of, it's contested area. Contested here, contested here. Now, that means that there's this little gap here. The Russians say that they have it encircled, and they don't really, but they have it kind of this gap here where the Ukrainians need to get out of Pokrovsk. They need to get out here through this gap that is covered by FPV drones. And so that's going to be the difficult part for the Ukrainians. And I'll show you how they're planning to pull out and how that's going to work in just a moment. Okay, Ukraine hit Russia's elite Rubicon drone base, but it's too late for Pokrovsk. They did this the other day. I talked about it yesterday. There's only this 3-kilometer escape corridor. That's what I was showing you here. This escape corridor is not very wide, and it only 3-kilometer escape corridor remains for thousands of Ukrainian troops. Same unit that destroyed hundreds of trucks in Kursk using FPV drones with thermal cameras destroyed the Rubicon. The Rubicon are these drone pilots that go after drone pilots. Like, that's what their intent was. And so they menaced the Ukrainian drone pilots. Now, this is the BBC article I was talking about, why the fall of Pokrovsk would matter to Ukraine and Russia. And so there's a number of really interesting things here. I'm going to go through a number of paragraphs. Ukraine could be facing its biggest loss for months if the key eastern city of Pokrovsk falls to Russian forces. Okay, it's not strategic. We talked about that yesterday with the article from Phillips O'Brien. It's not strategic in the sense that it's going to destroy things, but you don't want to lose it, all other things being equal. But you also don't want to stay and lose your winnings, all other things being equal. So if you need to abandon it, you need to abandon it. If Russia's Vladimir Putin were able to claim victory there 3 years and 10 months into his full-scale war, he would be a step closer to his goal of controlling Ukraine's entire industrial east, the Donbass. Now, I want to highlight this, a step closer. This is just one step. He's got to get through the rest of the fortress belt, but it makes it easier to get to the rest of the fortress belt. But then there's also some nuance here that I want to point out, and I'm going to do that from Dylan Burns' movie about Pokrovsk. Okay, how close is Pokrovsk to falling? Russia has amassed tens of thousands of troops in the area. Hundreds of its soldiers have infiltrated the city, gradually taking over buildings and streets and overwhelming Ukrainian positions. Kyiv's general staff denied its forces in and around the town had been encircled and maintained that they were still involved in active resistance. They are involved in active resistance, and they're not encircled in a traditional sense, but the FPV cover makes it kind of encircled, but they really can get out. It's going to be a hard run. It's going to be a gauntlet on the way out. Okay. One Ukrainian regiment said that it had cleared the city council and posted a video of a Ukrainian flag hung on the building. Okay, so there's some progress, but they're not trying to keep Pokrovsk at this point. They're trying to get an orderly withdrawal. Ukrainian troops were outnumbered and more than 1,000 soldiers were at risk of becoming surrounded. Russia said the Ukrainian units were trapped in cauldrons. That's where you kind of have them in a pocket and they can't really get out. And they're surrounded on all sides. Open source intelligence maps offers differing assessments of the situation on the ground. Most of Pokrovsk is a no man's land, deep state monitoring group said. It's bad, right? You have this like small window of area in order to get out, and a lot of it is contested now. So, okay. Now, why is the city so important for Russia to capture? Russia's military has had its sights on Pokrovsk since it captured the eastern city of Avdiivka back in February. Then by July, they were threatening Pokrovsk, and I was like, uh-oh. But then a year and 4 months later, it's still holding. If Pokrovsk falls, defending the satellite city of Mirnograd becomes almost untenable. So let's look at this. Pokrovsk is here, and Mirnograd is its sister city. And Mirnograd's actually in better shape than Pokrovsk, but they're going to have to abandon both of these at the same time. They're not going to be able to hold it. However, Ukraine still had defensive lines to withdraw to and could reset its defense. So once they pull back, they're going to be on the other side of this. Let's go back to the deep state map. They have defensive lines back here. And once they get through with their withdrawal, that's where they're going to go to, is to the defensive lines northwest of the city. Okay. So Ukraine had defensive lines to withdraw to and could reset its defense. Russian forces lack momentum, and the way that they have been fighting won't generate it. Okay, they can creep. They really don't have mobile ability, but they can creep forward, and they're slowly creeping forward. There's no doubt about that. Now, what makes Pokrovsk significant for Ukraine to hold? Most importantly, Pokrovsk was a key road and junction in the east. Losing the city could pave the way for Russian forces to advance on the more central Dnipropetrovsk region, the main road to Pavlograd and Dnipro, and then there's another big road that leads to Zaporizhia. So if we look at this map here, Pokrovsk is here, and these main roads, the Russians kind of they're dependent on main roads for moving artillery and armor and things, well, particularly armor, and like especially in mud season and that sort of thing. And so there's one down to Zaporizhia and one to Dnipro and Pavlograd along the way. Would the fall of Pokrovsk change the war? No, it's just another city in the way that's bleeding the Russians in the meantime, but it's not going to turn the tide of the war. But even if Pokrovsk falls, it does not mean that the rest of Donetsk would too. The Institute for the Study of War believes that Russia has no means of rapidly enveloping or penetrating the forest belt and says it would likely take several years. But losing Pokrovsk would be a blow for Ukrainian morale, just as the winter is setting in and power is being attacked and that sort of thing. It also would come as a significant cost to manpower, but it's significant cost to Russian manpower just as much as any Ukrainian manpower. In fact, it's far worse. But this is the real key. It's going to strengthen Moscow's negotiating position. As soon as Russia has a city, wait for it. I'm predicting it now. I'll talk about it later. Putin and Lavrov and others are going to say, see, look at the gains that we have on the ground. We're just unstoppable. This is inevitable. Okay, so that's why Pokrovsk is important. Now, I saw this. I watched this last night. It came out just a few days ago. 1 year of fighting. Dylan Burns put this documentary out. It's about an hour and a half long, something like that. Go to @DylanBurnsTV on YouTube if you want to watch it. I highly recommend it. I'm going to show you 2 little clips from the video, and just to kind of give you a teaser and help you understand some things. These are 2 points that I didn't fully understand, but now I think I have a better understanding of. So the first here.
Hide the gun before you can be spotted. You must be fast. But even with speed, war is a business of percentages that calculates the risk to your life. You can try to control that risk by getting good gear, following protocol, but anytime you operate on the front, especially one as violent as this one, there is unavoidable risk, most evidently shown through the drones that routinely patrol the area. Some Ukrainian, some Russian, many loaded with explosives and ready to strike at the first sign of movement.
FPV! Кутумир 0537! Пацаны, FPV!
Yeah, that's got to be eerie to hear the FPV drone and try to figure out where it's coming from.
Yesterday, Russian Zala-brand fixed-wing recon drones were spotted over this position, causing the crew to have to disperse and hide. It's important to hide any sign of life, like piles of garbage, that could be visible to these recon drones. A nearby artillery team reported 5 FPVs overhead this morning. The Russians are hunting for artillery teams, like this, all of the time. While drones are almost always cited by troops to be the biggest threat they encounter on a daily basis, there are few options to defend yourself from them. One is to hide, like how this team conceals its artillery gun within a tree line. But as winter approaches, and the foliage is traded for bare trees that provide little cover, staying hidden isn't always a choice.
Okay, did you hear that? As winter approaches, the foliage is going to drop from the trees. It's going to change the game on the ground. And so, okay, let's go back to this map. So let's say Pokrovsk falls. They pull back. they get over here, there's going to be a large distance between where the Ukrainians are and where the Russians are, and there's going to be FPVs going both ways trying to destroy each other. But they can't really move people over that ground, especially if it's open fields or there's foliage off the trees and people are sitting ducks. Do you understand how that works? So that was a pretty big aha and insight for me. Again, I highly recommend watching this 1 year of fighting. Again, Dylan Burns TV. Go and watch that. I'll show you another clip of it in a little bit. Okay, Ukraine elite forces have been deployed to Pokrovsk. They're not there to counterattack. They're not trying to hold the city. That's not the goal, but to cover a retreat. So the 425th Assault and the 82nd Airborne are holding 3-kilometer corridor open while decimated brigades flee on foot through Russian drone fire. So a year-long battle for the city is going to end in days. It's not going to be very long, it appears, for Ukraine in Pokrovsk. This is from that Euromaidan a press article. The survivors of Pokrovsk Ukrainian garrison are, in fact, trying hard to escape the ruins of a once thriving mining city. To give the survivors of the 68th Jaeger Brigade and 155th Mechanized Brigade a fighting chance to escape to the new Ukrainian line north of Pokrovsk, several elite but very small units have deployed to the city. They include the company from the 425th Assault Regiment. Don't mistake companies jaunt into the city center for a counteroffensive. That's not it. It's actually covering effort for a belated general retreat. After a year of hard fighting, the battle for Pokrovsk is coming to an end, according to Thorkill. He's a mill blogger. And here is Chuck Farrar. He is a former SEAL, and his map, Ukraine counterattacks yesterday. Sources report continuing counterattacks over 80% of urban area. Ukrainian units in contact along T04, 08, and M30 highway axis. Look at all the arrows here. Look at all the directional arrows where Ukraine is attacking. I have the wrong color here with red. Maybe I ought to turn that blue. How do I turn my color blue? I can change the color. I'm pretty sure I can change the color. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. Look at all the attacks, or where Ukrainians are attacking. Here they're attacking the Russians over here. They're trying to attack up here to push them back, right? But it's only so that they can actually get their guys out. Like that's the overall goal here. Okay, Russians abandoned vehicle assaults around Pokrovsk for infiltration tactics. These little 2 to 3 person teams in civilian clothing targeting supply routes from the south. Okay, in civilian clothing. They're not supposed to be doing that, right? Ukrainians stopped the group attempting to sever the Radnitsky logistics road. So these 2 to 3 person teams, that was important. They stopped using these big armor blitzes, and that was key. I got this insight, another insight out of the Dylan Burns video. And again, I highly recommend it. Listen to this.
Vehicle, especially a car, doesn't matter, military or civilian, Russians love to blow up. And it's easy to see. Motorcycle, a little bit more safe, but at the same time, a little bit more dangerous due to the fact that even if a drone doesn't hit you, shrapnel will be flying your way and you don't have the body of a vehicle to slow that shrapnel flying into. Bicycle or by foot is a little bit safer because you have more options on where you can run into, how quickly you can run into, but also it takes more time to get to the destination, of course.
Okay, so if you didn't catch all that, said tanks, obvious, the drones go right after it, right? Motorcycles a little safer because it's speedier, can move around, but of course you're susceptible to shrapnel, which is why I was saying, hey, this motorcycle thing's a bad idea. But these 2 to 3 person teams, that's what they've been doing. On foot, that's the safest way to actually get there because you have more maneuverability. It'll take you longer to get there. Again, from the Dylan Burns TV YouTube channel, go watch this video if you want more context. Institute for the Study of War, just this morning, other key takeaways: Russia's grinding advances in the Pokrovsk direction continue to absorb significant Russian losses. That was the whole point of Pokrovsk. It's not about the real estate. It's about grinding down the Russian army. Russian channels were reporting last night multiple Ukrainian missile attacks on Russian positions. Oh, actually, no, this was this morning. This was early this morning. Russian channels are reporting multiple Ukrainian missile strikes on Russian positions in the Pokrovsk direction. They're doing as much as they can to tie up the Russians so that their people can get out. And then last, I'll leave you with this image. Look at the fiber optic cables. This is Preston Stewart posted this on the ground near Pokrovsk. It's almost pretty, except that that's fiber optic cables. That shows you just how much fiber optic drone coverage there is. Electronic warfare won't work on the fiber optic drones, and it's just everywhere. It's amazing. All right, my friends, did that help you? I hope that it provided some context. If it did, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.